D Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 1025, 1063 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you, David Janes as well on a Friday. Hey, Derek, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you like goals?
I love goals.
Hey, Willie, I have a question for you. Do you love goals?
I don't have any voice left, Adam. So yes, I do like goals.
Hey, David, do you like goals?
Yes, I do. A goal.
Well, if you love goals, then man, have you been treated to some excellent hockey these past few nights. The Nashville Predators, after beating the Sharks 7-5 the other night, beat the Sharks again 6-5 last night. 23 combined goals over the past two games in this matchup. If only the Predators and Sharks could play each other 82 times a year. Alas, that is not the case. But the Predators win 6-5 last night. The Predators' fifth consecutive win. Their seventh win in the past 9 games. They're 7-2-0 over their past 9 games. A highly entertaining game again last night. Willie, the Predators score 3 goals on their first 7 shots against. Okay, I saw this tweet from Max Hers yesterday, Willie, and you're going to have to explain this to our listening audience. So we have come to pronounce the last name of the ex-Predators goaltending prospect, Yaroslav Askarov. Askarov. And according to Max Hers, although Yaroslav Askarov refers to himself as Yaroslav Askarov, he wants announcers to refer to him as Yaroslav Askarov. What the heck?
I don't get it. But this guy has always beat to his own drummer. I was watching the broadcast for the Sharks on Monday, on Martin Luther King Day. They had an afternoon game in Boston. And Yaro Askey was playing. And they were calling him Askarov. I was like, oh boy, what has happened here? Because this just drives all announcers crazy. If you're doing a real Russian pronunciation, it is Askarov. That is where the emphasis is on the second syllable, Askarov. Askarov made this point. Aaron Sims, for 2 full years in Milwaukee, when he was an all-star for the AHL, was calling him Askarov. For some unknown reason, he told Randy Hahn and Dan Rusanowski, the 2 announcers who do this for the Sharks, that he wanted to be Askarov.
Does he know his name?
Why?
Does he know his own last name, Willie?
Well, he does know his own last name. I guess so many people get it wrong. That he figures just go ahead and Americanize it. That's the only thing that I can tell. Other players, I guess, have done that. It doesn't make any sense to me. But sometimes nothing makes sense with Askarov. He is his own kind of guy. In fact, somebody shared with me when he first got to Milwaukee, he said he wants to be called Oscar. And that didn't stick for whatever reason, thankfully. But I don't know what's happening. I do know it was very entertaining to watch the game last night. And Nashville, I thought, did point out during the game some of the holes that were things that they wanted him to work on, that they were trying to get him to adjust so he can become the superstar that I think he still can be, but he's still got a ways to go. I think we saw almost a microcosm of why it got sideways between Askarov and the Predators during the season last year.
Listen, it's their problem now. Not to say it's going to continue to be a problem. It's their problem now. That's not something that that Coach Bruno Norberry needs to worry about. But listen, this team looks damn good. And it's the disappointing part about it, and everybody understands this, why we didn't see this sooner. I mean, goodness, Philip Forsberg is on a heater right now.
By the way,
that goal last night, what was the first one he had between the legs? And I mean, it was just unbelievable.
So Philip Forsberg, who went 18 consecutive games without scoring, which was the worst drought of his career, has followed that up with a 7-game goal streak, which matches the Predators franchise record, which he set last season in March. So if Forsberg scores again tomorrow against Anaheim, that will be the longest goal streak in Predators history.
And he has 7 goals in the last 5 games. I mean, the guy he's making up for lost time, I tell you that. But like you said, Willie, it was a microcosm of Askarov. I think what you're seeing from guys like Philip Forsberg and Marchessault, it's a microcosm of the team. They start off slow, the team started off slow. Now they're starting to pick it up and everybody's finding their groove. And now look at what the team's doing. Now they need to get better on the defensive end of the ice. But from a scoring standpoint, it seems like they found their groove. They've gotten more comfortable one another. And hey, listen, the injury may have helped this. And we talked about this, Willie, when it first happened. I think the injury to Philip Forsberg.
It was an injury to Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, Ryan O'Reilly. And then someone else went
Gus
down.
Nyquist was sick one night, which forced, Willie, correct me if I'm wrong here, which forced Andrew Brunette to put Forsberg, Stamkos, and Marchessault together about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, and it was right around the time that Marchessault squawked to the French media that, hey, I'm tired of getting moved around to different lines. And so it seemed like it all happened right there. It didn't result in a bunch of wins right away, but you could see that it started to come together, and those 3 guys have been really productive since that day, December the 10th. They lost the game against Calgary. Roman Josi got hurt in that game. That was the unfortunate part.
Yeah, Roman Josi, he missed some games, and they had to switch the lineup up a little bit.
Yeah, and so it's slowly, you could see it developing. In fact, Andrew Brunette, if you ask him about the winning streak, he likes to wind it back. They're now 11-6-1 in their last 18 games. And during those 18 games, Forsberg, Marchessault, and Stamkos are all averaging at least a point a game. And Forsberg's averaging well over a point a game during that time. So is Marchessault. But that has slotted everybody else in the right spot. O'Reilly and Nyquist on the second line, and then the emerging line of Svechkov, LaRue, and Tommy Novak, who's showing a lot of signs of life now. All of a sudden, he's playing the way he's supposed to be playing, and it looks really good, especially from the forward spots.
The Predators are averaging 5.2 goals per game during this 5-game winning streak. As we talked about with Elliot Freeman yesterday, I think we're starting to see the Predators team, specifically offensively, that we expected to see at the start of the season when they brought in all of these high-scoring players, specifically Stamkos and Marchessault, in free agency. But this, again, goes back to the conversation I know a lot of Predators fans are having. And by the way, our friend Hair Metal Henry on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, if that is how Askarov is going to play, he should probably go back to the old pronunciation.
I agree.
But this goes back to a conversation I know a lot of Predators fans are having. We've had it on the program. We've talked about it on Preds Insiders as well. When this stretch of 7 wins in 9 games started, the Predators were 15 points back of the final playoff spot, which I believe at that time was held by the Vancouver Canucks, who the Predators beat that night in that first of 7 wins in 9 games. Despite winning 5 in a row in 7 of 9, the Predators are still 10 points back of a playoff spot today. So despite playing as well as they have been over the past few weeks, they've only gained 5 points in the playoff race, which speaks to how difficult it's going to be for them to get back into it. But I think I speak for most Predators fans, I would say, that I'm glad that they're making it interesting. We sat through a Titan season that was effectively over after 3 games. And we watched all of the games and we talked about all of the games, but we knew the Titans weren't going anywhere. We just had to play out the string, and it got exciting at the end because they put themselves in position for the number 1 pick. But for months, we were talking about relatively meaningless football. It looked like the Predators were headed in that direction up until the past few weeks. So although the Predators, again, the percentage chance of them making the playoffs continues to be incredibly low. Derek and Willie, at least they're making it interesting. At least the Predators are fun to watch. And I don't discount that whatsoever.
I don't. There's a lot, to say about a team, that second half or after they've been through their struggles. Are they going to continue to fight through them? Or are they going to just look at the schedule and say, man, there's no way we can make a run to the playoffs? The GM could look at it that way, but they haven't. They continue to fight. And I think, at least from my perspective, and I know there are some fans out there and saying, man, if we have this good run and we still don't make the playoffs, we might as well had not had it and had a higher pick. I understand all that, but that's your perception as a fan. From a player's perspective and from a head coach and GM perspective, it's okay, this is how we were supposed to look. And now you get that same momentum heading into the offseason. People feel better about where they are at in regards to their positions and their ice time and their lines, knowing that in the offseason, you're going to bring more young guys into the fray to try to challenge you. So it's better to sort of find your footing and at least finish the second half of the season out on a good note rather than to just blow the whole season, go into the offseason, and now everybody's worried about everything possible about their team.
There's still 35 games left.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's been a really long season because it was so tough for the first 3 months. And I've said this a number of times. I don't think I've ever seen a team as snake bit as they were for the first half of the season or so. They're finally starting to catch some breaks. They're finally starting to get some puck luck. They're finding ways to win instead of coming up short in wacky games like that last night. A couple of reviews here and there are going their way. It seemed like every review was going the wrong way early in the season. It is interesting how it can turn. So the question now is, is it time to start having a little bit of hope? I don't think they're there yet, but we keep going back, Adam, to their schedule between now and the February break. And the February break is such a long break. It's almost like there's two different seasons. So how much ground can they make up between now and that February, 8th or so, that they play their last game? I think that is a critical part of this. They're in a groove right now where things feel good. They're excited to go to the rink. They're making plays, and they're playing a weaker part of their schedule. If they can keep rolling all the way into that break, that's when I think it would be time to evaluate and say, okay, where do they sit right now?
They have 7 games left before that break. Their final game is February 8th at home against the Buffalo Sabres. Then they have a 2-week break for that Four Nations face-off tournament. Mark on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, said, I'm assuming he means me. You said a few weeks ago that this is a terrible team. Still stand by that statement? Not a terrible team, just have to learn how to play together. Strong statement about a team with that much talent. I don't think you could argue a few weeks ago that this was a terrible team. The numbers would tell you that. The wins would tell you that. The underlying numbers would tell you that. So do I stand by that statement now? I mean, they're not playing like a terrible team right now. They were absolutely playing like a terrible team up until a month, 5-6 weeks ago. So I give them tremendous credit for turning things around and, again, making things interesting. The last thing that we all wanted was for this Predator season to be effectively over halfway through, just like the Titan season was effectively over after 3 or 4 games. We want to talk about an entertaining hockey team. And although there are still warts in their game, the good news is they've scored, let me do my quick math here, 13 goals in their past 2 games. They've also allowed 10 goals to the San Jose Sharks in 2 games. The Sharks are the worst team in the league. So it's a good thing they're scoring so much because their defense and their goaltending has been suspect in these two games, and maybe even a little bit further than that. But I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that they were playing like one of the worst teams in the league for half the season.
Yeah, I mean,
And I would separate the first half into two parts. I think the first part, they were very disjointed and not on the same page. And I think they were really playing like a bad team. They were just playing poor hockey. I would say that, and I would say about the first 15 to 20 games, you could probably throw that in there. And then I think there was a period where they started to figure it out. And Adam, this was around the time that you were saying, should they make a coaching change
Yes.
because they looked lost. And right around that time, they started to adjust some things. They started to get better numbers, right? The numbers that we always look at, Adam, that start indicating, what should be happening here. And they should have been having more success than they did for a while. They were playing some really tough teams, and everything that could go wrong in a bunch of close games. You could go through them one by one. I'll use the two games in Minnesota as an example. They easily could have won either or both of those games and lost them both. And there's so many other examples of that where it's a close game. They did a lot of good things, but they just found ways to come up short with making the wrong play at the wrong time. So I think you started to see progress there, but they were much more snake bit. Now, like I said, they're starting to get a little more mojo. They're starting to feel it. And pucks that were bouncing out before are now bouncing in, things like that. So how long is this going to go? So it's getting interesting, but the question now is how interesting?
We will continue to find out tomorrow when the Nashville Predators continue their quick road trip at Anaheim. Puck drop at 9, pregame at 8, right here on 1025, 1063. The game, the Predators will go for their 6th consecutive win against the Anaheim Ducks before returning home on Wednesday to take on the Vancouver Canucks. 615-737-1025. Any thoughts on the Predators? You can certainly get them in. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, there is a word that Chad Brinker used in his pseudo news conference earlier this week that has taken the NFL talking head, whatever you want to call it, proletariat. Is that the right word? That's probably too fancy of a word. I don't know. Either way, there is a word.
I got to look up. Hold on. During this
Yeah.
break, Adam, I got to look up proletariat.
Okay, we'll have to make sure that was the right word.
Yeah.
But
I don't know what that means.
there is a word, however, that Brinker.
I concur. Willie.
Okay. Either way, we're
I
all
don't
learning
either.
something today. There is a word that Chad Brinker used that has gotten a lot of play around the NFL, and we'll discuss that next, and we'll also look up the meaning of proletariat to make sure that I'm not as stupid as I think I am. Willie Dunning, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, the game.
All right, it's either need or best player available. Cam, would you go with quarterback or Travis Hunter at 1?
There's only one blue player, according to that reference, in the draft. It's Travis Hunter. I mean, when you think about the Tennessee Titans as a whole, there's not a lot of players that you think about just in the history of the franchise. Steve McNair, rest in peace. Eddie George. Those guys, they haven't played in 2 decades. So when you think about who's been the franchise player, you instantly thrust a guy like Travis Hunter into the fold. Now it gives you that type of identity that we want to go after. And, you know, generational player, he said it in his own words.
Nice soliloquy. Decent take, Cam. We disagree. I'm not passing up on a quarterback when I got Mr. Mayonnaise, Will Levis at the quarterback spot. I'll be damned if I'm going to do that. I'm not doing it. I need that. That brother need to go. I got to get me another quarterback. I can't tell my team that, you know what, work your tail off, bust your tail, do all you can, you understand, because we care and we're trying to win, and I'm going to have Will Levis as my quarterback. It cannot happen. Now, that's not to say you can't get rid of him and get somebody else. I understand that, please. I truly, truly do. But here's what I'm going to say to you. Shedeur Sanders ain't no damn slouch. This brother has that it factor. Everybody says he can ball. Now, if you can't ball and you got a bunch of Daniel Jones in the draft, I get that part. That's not what they said about Cam Ward. That's not what they're saying about Shedeur Sanders. And when you have the kind of pedigree that Sanders has had, and he has shown himself to be a big-time quarterback, I'm Tennessee. I'm not dismissing that possibility.
That was Cam Newton and Stephen A. Smith on ESPN First Take. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Okay, by the way, I did not mean to use the word proletariat, the definition of which is workers or working class people regarded collectively, often used with reference to Marxism. Somebody texted me and said, find a better adjective, comrade. I am not a Marxist. I promise you that. The phrase I was looking for was the talking head industrial complex. I don't know why I came up with proletariat. I've got to brush up on my dictionary.
You just wanted to sound smart. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the glasses, everybody.
It really did.
It was just the chest load of words that you have in your repertoire.
Yes.
And it just came
repertoire.
out.
That's a big word too.
We're just saying like $5 plus words, man.
Oh man.
And you're rubbing off on us.
Either way, I just want to say one thing, and I've said this to Derek many times. Who dresses Cam Newton? Cam Newton looks like the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. Every time I see him on television with these big top hats and these just bright shirts with these huge prints on them, that's neither here nor there.
He's like a 5-year-old that is like told by his mom, like, "Oh, you can dress yourself for church today."
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
That's his look. I listen. It's not my look. It's his look. And listen, I've always said, whatever you wear it with pride, wear it proud, wear it like it's your.
Hey man,
he's
yours, got the confidence to wear it.
Yeah,
he's got
own
the
it. Have the
confidence to wear it.
And he has it.
So I certainly have.
And
yes, go ahead, Willie.
I would only add that I do like the Mad Hatter. That's a great character. He's only, the Mad Hatter's in the Alice in Wonderland. He's in there for like 5 minutes, but he's cooking. Like Bill Simmons podcast, he has an award for, I forget what he calls it. It's Dion Waiters, I think, for best moving the needle in a short period of time in a movie. Mad Hatter is right up there with the all-time greats.
There you go.
Absolutely, Chuck.
Along with the what's the rabbit? That's not the white rabbit, but there's the hair.
I don't remember. I
His
haven't watched
sidekick.
Alice
It's
in
a great
Wonderland
scene.
in a long time.
Yeah, just watch the Tea Party scene when Alice goes and hangs out with the Mad Hatter. It's pretty good stuff.
Chuck just texted in 1984. I promise I'm not a Marxist. Big Brother is not watching all of you, I swear.
Wink, wink.
Devin and Dixon says it's good to know Adam isn't a communist. That is true.
Thank goodness,
I am not a communist. All right.
You're going to
let's
get us
this
canceled,
show,
Adam.
Yes, let's get this show back on track. There is a word that
There's some English majors out there. That's a good thing.
Yes. There is a word that Chad Brinker used earlier this week. that has swept the talking head industrial complex. There we go. That's what I meant to say this whole time. Generational. That is the word that Brinker used. The quote was, as far as that number one pick, you can't pass up on a generational talent. It's important to note the rest of the quote, by the way. We won't do that, meaning we won't pass up on a generational talent. But we also have to look at all the options available to us there as well, because we want to build this team for the long term. I mentioned this before. If I can map this out perfectly, I love to have 30 picks over the next 3 years, and 12 of those picks come from the top 100. That would be ideal. That's how you flip your roster. That's how you get youth on your roster. But that first part, as far as that number one pick, you can't pass up on a generational talent. I saw that quote pulled and discussed on multiple platforms across the NFL landscape over the past few days. That word, the G word, generational, is so overused in sports. I personally believe it's gaining on the the most overused word in sports, the E word, elite. I think generational, if they're running a race, generational is right on elite's heels in terms of the words that are way overused in sports talk and sports writing and all of those things. But Willie, it's led to a conversation about whether any of these players in this draft can be considered quote unquote generational. We heard Cam Newton argue in favor of Travis Hunter. We heard Stephen A. Smith argue in favor of Shedeur Sanders. Again, that word is thrown around way too loosely. But what do you make of how that viewpoint from Chad Brinker could influence the Titans' decision-making when it comes to that pick?
I think that this is all good if people think, if other teams think that Travis Hunter is generational, that only gives the Titans more leverage at the top. If people think, and I mean, when not people, not draft experts, other NFL teams think Shedeur Sanders, as Stephen A. Smith argued, is the real deal, this again gives the Titans more leverage because you now have options. This is just my personal belief. This is what I would do. I would try to create as much leverage as I can for that first pick and then deal the pick for as many assets as I could possibly get over the next 2 years. That would be what my goal would be. And as much as Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders might help the Titans, either one of them, and passing on them would be a big risk. In my opinion, one player, as good as he might be, is not going to move the needle enough. This team needs depth. This team needs foundation. And when you have the first pick, I would do what John Robinson did. Even if I thought Travis Hunter was generational, and I agree with you, generational has got to be elite is somebody you can throw a lot of players into an elite category if you want to. Generational should be saved for a Connor McDavid or for a Giannis in basketball. You know what I mean? Like those guys, by definition, don't come around more than once every 10, 20 years. A generation is theoretically 20 years, right? Or technically 20 years. So you shouldn't use it more than once every 20 years.
Yeah, I think Travis Hunter he was an elite college player. Now, will that translate into the NFL? I think it will, but only time will tell. Generational player, I'm not sure. Because listen, are we saying generational player because of his ability to play both sides of the ball? Well, if that's the case, I've seen plenty of guys be able to do that. And the league has changed now because, years ago, and I'm going to bring up this one name, Sam Madison. He had a great career in the NFL, really good career in college. He played at Louisville. His last year, he played some wide receiver. But college football wasn't the way it is now. Okay. Had college football been the way it was, had college football been the way it is now, a guy like Sam Madison, Charles Woodson, those guys, their numbers would have been inflated even more because they would have put them in their offense because offenses would have been more spread than two-back. When Woodson was playing, when Sam Madison was playing, when Champ Bailey was playing, it was more two-back. It wasn't 3, 4, 5 wides. Now you add that to the equation, and you can get guys like Sam Madison, Woodson, Champ Bailey. You can get them on the field more, and then they may have more receiving numbers. We just look at it from the standpoint of he's a damn good athlete. He's just an athlete. I don't say he's a defensive back or wide receiver. When I look at Travis Hunter, he is a athlete. That's what he is. I think if you put him at quarterback, he can manage the game if you're running the RPOs. I think you could do that.
Teron Davenport, when discussing Travis Hunter and what position he should play, corner or wide receiver, just says playmaker.
Exactly.
Play him whenever you need to make a play. You play him whatever position you need to.
Another guy, Julius Peppers. We never said he was a generational player, and he was closer to a generational player than anything. This is a guy that can play outside linebacker, inside backer, DN. He on a basketball court,
he wasn't half bad at basketball either.
So that was a sort of a generational player, if you want to, if we're using the term so loosely. Again, I think Travis was a elite college player. Will it translate to the league? More times than not, yes, because of what he was able to do. But to say he's a generational player, let's see it first. Let's see it first, because when you talk about generational players, everybody, there's no question. When you ask them, there's no, I don't. When you ask them, they say yes.
You know. Yeah.
When you looked at the quarterback coming out of Stanford, Luck, it was a consensus. He was a generational player when he came out, right or wrong. When Trevor Lawrence came out, the consensus was he was a generational player when he came into college. So when you want to make that statement, that usually a statement where if you ask somebody, there's no hesitation. It was like, yes, he is. Is it hesitation with Travis Hunter? I think he was an elite player in college. Does that translate to the NFL? We will see. But to say generational, listen, the Titans are in a position that they haven't been in quite some time. Whatever decision they choose to make, if they all come together collectively like they said they were, and they deem one of these quarterbacks is as their guy at number one, and they feel that if they move out of number one, they will not be able to get one of these guys, then stay at number one. But if not, then move down far enough, even if you don't think one of these guys are worthy of a top 10, 15 pick. Move down, but not too far, where you still can get a guy that can come in and contribute well the first year. If it's not Abdul Carter, if it's not Travis Hunter, the guy that I look at is the tight end from Penn State or the tight end from Michigan. Those two guys are damn good players, and people are sort of sleeping on them. You get you a damn good tight end. Ask the Vegas Raiders. They ain't got to worry about a tight end no more. They got theirs. We passed on them last year. I didn't mind passing on him. I thought he was a damn good player, but they didn't need him at the time. They need a guy like that can cause a matchup problem. That's what it's about. Can I get a guy that's going to cause a matchup problem? Because we don't have guys right now. We don't have a lot of them, at least, on offense. We maybe have one, if that, and that's Calvin Ridley. But do we have someone else that we could put on offense and say he's a matchup problem? We thought Chig could be that guy, but he's so up and down. He played good late. But if you get you a tight end that is a matchup problem, you got you something, especially with a young quarterback or a quarterback that you're going to get in free agency.
615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts, your calls, your texts on our text line and phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3. The Game.
Hey, it's Friday, everybody, and that means at 1:45, it'll be time to take it to the bank. With F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. A little change can go a long way. I tell you all the time, how does F&M Bank come up with ways for you to save some money? How about a very simple tool called the Smart Swipe? If you haven't checked out F&M Bank's Smart Swipe Roundup feature, it's time to. F&M's debit card Roundup Smart Swipe feature is a great tool that deposits change to your savings account every time you make a debit card purchase. So if you buy lunch and it's $15.28, it's going to round up to $16. And that extra 72 cents goes into your F&M savings account. And that happens every time you use that debit card. So use the Smart Swipe to your advantage, and you will be saving money just with your everyday routine. F&M Bank can make it a lot easier for you to save money. So stop by one of their branches or visit them at myfmbank.com. That's myfmbank.com. There are 20 locations in our listening area. Tell them you heard about Smart Swipe from us here at 102.5 The Game, because all of us know a little change can make all the difference. Member FDIC.
Quarterbacks tend to go early, especially when a team has such a big need at the position. I wouldn't take Cam Ward here. I wouldn't take Shedeur Sanders here either. I would take Abdul Carter, the pass rusher from Penn State. Now, we can go on for the next 3 months about should you take a quarterback at the top and you don't have one. I don't think bad teams should ever reach to fill a need. I don't think taking a bad quarterback or a quarterback who's not rated this highly first overall this year fixes your problem if you don't hit on that position. I do like Cam Ward. I wouldn't rank him in the top 10 picks in this draft. Same for Shedeur Sanders. Abdul Carter, to me, is the only player in this year's draft where we could say realistically could be the best player in the NFL at his position within the next 3 years. I don't feel that way about Travis Hunter. I definitely don't feel that way about these quarterbacks. So I think with a new regime coming in, Mike Berganzi having that card in his hand, take the generational talent in Abdul Carter instead of reaching and filling a need, which is what they did with Will Levis. They reached for a quarterback to take Will Levis. So that's where this team has, I think, taken steps backward. I would go Abdul Carter all the way.
That was Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst.
Reach for Will Levis. They drafted him in the second round. I don't understand
Yeah,
that.
I
I
don't say that
completely
being a
disagree with
reach,
that.
Yeah,
That was
I-
not a reach.
Right. I would disagree with that as well. But again, the word generational thrown out there. Chad Brinker said it. The talking head industrial complex, there I go, has pounced on that word. Matt Miller says Abdul Carter, the pass rusher out of Penn State, is generational. So everybody's definition of generational is different. Kevin on our text line says generational players come around every 10 years, generationally, which means you are very rarely ever going to have a chance to get a generational pick. Regardless of that, there's a draft order every year with a list of players. Pick the best damn player. It's as simple as that. You have the top pick. Take the best player, period. But
Disagree. I want more picks, and I want this hype. I keep the hype going. Let's talk about Carter as the generational player. Hopefully, 5 or 10 teams agree with that. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders as a franchise quarterback. Good. Hope 5 or 10 other teams think that. And the same thing about Travis Hunter, because if I can get people competing to try to move up to that one spot, that's a win for the Titans. Because when I say move down, you can move down as many slots as it fits for you, and you can still get the player that you really like in the first round. It's not like you're passing on a first-round pick. You're going to get a first-round pick, and a pretty high one probably, but you're going to get other picks, which they desperately need.
Yeah, whoever or whatever you choose to do or whoever you choose to draft, again, it has to be a guy that's going to come in and give you instant productivity. And listen, instant productivity doesn't mean they need to be all pro or Pro Bowl. Instant productivity means it needs to be an upgrade. It needs to be an obvious upgrade when that player gets on the field. So whether they stay at that number one pick or they move off of it, you got to get a player or players that is going to come in here. And Brinker said, we need guys that are coming that are going to play immediately, because that's where this roster is. This roster is at a point where, they can't afford to draft a guy and, it'll be 3 years down the line before we really see, that guy come into his own. I understand that, and I get it in at certain positions. Yes, that's typically, what happens. But because this team is so depleted of talent, they're 3-14 or 3-15, whatever it is, 3-14. That shows you that it's not because of injuries that they're 3-14. They're 3-14 because they are a bad roster. So whoever you choose to draft, even if you keep the number one pick, it needs to be a guy that's going to come here and give you some production early. And when I mean early, I mean as soon as he steps on the field.
so again, the quote from Chad Brinker, not just the part about passing up on a generational talent. He also said he'd love to have 30 picks over the next 3 years, and 12 of those picks come in the top 100. There really are only 2 ways they can do this. And I just found the tweet from Mike Herndon that I wanted to reference of paulkaharski.com. Mike wrote a few days ago. Right now, the Titans have 8 top 100 picks in the next 3 drafts. If they want to get from 8 to 12, there are only 2 paths. 1, trade back in the first round. 2, trade high-value veterans for picks. Jeffrey Simmons, maybe Calvin Ridley are the only current Titans, with top 100 pick value. He continues. Also, you definitely can no longer be in the business of trading up for players in the draft or trading top 100 picks for veterans. They shouldn't be doing either of those things anyway.
Agree.
Yeah, you're right. this team, they can't afford to give away picks. They tried a little bit of that last year, robbing Peter to pay Paul, giving away picks to try to get veteran free agents. And listen, the jury's still out on the Jerry Sneed, but they gave up a 3rd round pick for him, a 3rd round pick they could have had this season, this NFL draft. So they got to find a way to stop, robbing Peter to pay Paul. It has to be, how do we build up this roster? And he's right. They need X amount of picks at least within the top 100 in the next couple of years to even have a shot at that. Because you could supplement it through free agency, but that only works to a degree. If you don't have homegrown talent that you watch develop and you re-sign, then you're never going to be a consistent winning team.
Our friend Mark from Nashville is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mark, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Adam? D-May, Willie?
What's going on?
Good, Mark.
Hey, let's just be realistic, man. I'm listening to y'all. I'm listening. And I'm thinking to myself, something's just not right with this. I would just forget about Shedeur and Cam, man. Look, they have no offensive line. Those guys would have no playmakers to deal with and come to with this organization. They, like Willie said, they probably need to trade down, get a Carter, get somebody else in the draft, and try to accumulate more picks. As many holes as they have to fill, and they got a lot of holes. I still don't hear a lot about offensive line. I mean, you really got to get that straightened out, man. I don't care if you got to bring guys that didn't get drafted, bring them in. There's going to be some offensive linemen out there that probably won't get drafted and come in and stuff, and bring them in. See what you got with them. They need to have put a billboard out there in Nashville and say, hey, look, anybody want to play professional football, just come on out here and try out. Because it's just that bad out there for Nashville and the Titans and stuff. And I mean, man, trade Simmons if you have to. If they're going to have to do something. I mean, I'm not really sold on Ridley like that, D-Mace. I kind of like NWI a little better than Ridley. Really didn't show me much this year. I mean, he wasn't really consistent. He looks like he's lost a step. I don't know anybody that would take that contract over with Ridley. It's been a lot of talk about Vrabel wanting Big Jeff, but Amy's not going to do a favor and let Big Jeff go to New England and take any picks back for that. So that's not going to happen. But hey, maybe you need to go and get you a 2nd round guy, get you a Kyle McCord, get you a Jackson Dart, get somebody to come in there and maybe fill the void so you can get that quarterback that you want. But this is an organization that has too many needs to try to fill right now, and it's going to take years upon years for them to fill this. They fill those voids that they need to fill, because they're really way behind the bust they've had in recent drafts. That has hurt them. So, I mean, that's just my opinion on it. Hey, man, y'all have a good weekend. See you later, Willie, D-Mace, Uncle Adam. Talk to y'all next week, man.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Quickly, Trey is also on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling and waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing good, Trey.
Hey, I just wanted to know, I did a little bit of research, okay? And I want to know, why is Mike Burgundy's house and Will Levis' house is basically 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away? Why is that? Why did they pick him to be the GM? And I believe there's something fishy about that. And I believe that Will Levis, I know y'all probably don't want to hear this, but I believe he's going to be quarterbacking next year. Is there too much connection stuff going on? And how would y'all feel if he did start next year? I love you guys. Have a good day.
He won't.
Thanks.
He
Thanks,
will
Trey.
not be the starter next year.
Trey doing his own research is it's a dangerous thing to do.
Trey, I love you.
Sometimes.
I love you. And you keep calling and I just said this to David. I said, Trey usually, and when I mean usually, I mean 99.9% of the time, you call, you had good questions or good, opinions. But Trey, Nashville's only so big. Where is he supposed to move? I mean, listen. If you're 15 minutes away, you're 15 minutes away. I mean,
was his point that Borgonzi's house and Levis's house are 15
yeah,
minutes apart? Is
yeah.
that
So
what he said?
yeah. So I don't. I think that's what I think he had a problem with their houses being 50. Am I wrong?
I don't
If
think
I'm wrong, David,
Look, I
I'm
don't-
wrong.
I don't
If-
think Mike
I don't
I'm
think you're
not sure
wrong.
where he was going.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the other stuff he was talking about, yes. But I'm not sure what does that mean in regards to the big scheme of things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't-
He's not. Will Levis is not going to be the starting quarterback
Yeah, he's
next
not.
year
Yeah.
unless somebody gets hurt. Like I think it's plausible that Levis would be penciled in as the backup, and if the starter, whoever they deem that is, gets hurt, then Levis could start. Or if they draft a guy in the first round and they don't think he's ready on day
So
one,
he was saying it's
that
Massachusetts.
Levis could be the filler until they both have
Oh, and
Massachusetts
Massachusetts
That's fine.
ties.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay,
that's what
whatever.
he was saying. The Massachusetts
that's-
ties. Okay.
Look,
okay.
I thought
Look,
he was
he's
talking
not
about
gonna make it-
Nashville.
That's to me that's not. You don't get a GM job and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, he's from the same hometown. Let's put him in there." That would not go over very
It
well.
was just ironic.
Trey, just make sure to take off your tinfoil hat before you get out of the car.
And Trey, listen, we all wear tinfoil hats every once in a while, so
Yes.
we're not getting on you like
We appreciate
exactly.
you, one of our devoted listeners, but we love to have fun at
Absolutely.
the same time.
But
Six,
no, Trey represents a lot of fans who ask questions
Mhm.
because they are not sold
Mhm.
that the Titans have it together. And,
Yeah.
and look, until they start winning, people are like Trey are going to keep asking questions like that.
615-737-1025 will continue our discussion topic on the Titans. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Ask D. Mace at 12:30. So if you've got questions for Derek, you can start texting them in now at 615-737-1025. You can also call at around 12:30 for Ask D. Mace. Before we get to Steven on our phone line, our friend Mark from Nashville called back. He didn't like the love that we were giving Trey. Mark, like Trey, is a devoted listener and participant in this program. Mark, we want you to know, man, we haven't forgotten about you. We love you. We appreciate you.
Yes, Mark, you ask the great questions 100% of the time.
He just wants respect, man. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Put some
Put
respect
some
on his
respect
name.
on his
Yeah,
name.
I get it. Put some respect on your name. So we're going to do it on this show. Put some
Of
respect
course.
on Mark's name. That's right.
We hear you. Mark, we love you. Steven is in Clarksville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Steven, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. How y'all doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Hey, so I am not a Titans fan. I live in Clarksville, have for a few years, and I do love football. But being here in Clarksville, the 102.5 The Game is the best radio station I get, and I really enjoy hearing you guys talk about the Titans and the NFL and all that. When it comes to the draft, I know it's been about like 90% to 10% of talking about getting, I'll just say, an offensive player or a defensive player, moreover like they say, the generational or elite players. Anyways, you guys have all those conversations already. My concern is, I understand there's not a lot of hype over the quarterbacks, either in the free agency or in the draft. I mean, and I've only heard like a little bit talk about an edge rusher or something like that. I know it's not sexy, but why don't we or the Titans just think, hey, let's build a juggernaut defense that can help our offense, meaning the defense will get the ball back more often than not, giving an offense more time to operate. The offense may not look great, but the only way to get the offense better time to play, or more opportunities, is to get them the ball, whether they screw it up or not. The defense will always be there to get the ball back. Why not build a defense like that? I don't see that anymore. Thanks for taking my call. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
You too, Steven.
Thank you, Steven. I mean, Steven does have a point. When you are a team, or even if you are a good team, but maybe, the quarterback position hasn't sort of matured yet to your liking. And what you try to do when you have a young quarterback or in that position, you try to help him in other areas. Some teams' philosophy was build up the defense. You look at teams like Pittsburgh and Baltimore, even Tennessee at one point in time. It was build your defense up, get a good run game, take a lot of the pressure off the quarterback. And they've proven they can win. Pittsburgh proved they can win like that. Baltimore did. And the Titans at one point, they proved that they can win under that scenario. It's a little bit harder to do it now because offenses are so high powered, but it still can be done. But you better have a damn good defense if that's the type of sort of game plan you want to go by. If you want to build your defense up, great, do it. But it better be a top 2 or 3 defense to give your team, because if you don't have, guys solidified on the offensive side of the ball, if you don't have playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, sort of game changers, eventually you're going to be like the New York Jets was 2 years ago, and they didn't make the playoffs. Damn good defense, but their offense, even, after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, their offense could never get itself jump-started. They won, 7 games, I think, and missed the playoffs. But because they didn't have an offense, even with their top-ranked defense, they couldn't get enough wins in today's football to make to the playoffs. So if you're going to employ that tactic, I get it. It's great. But it's going to take you some time. It's just not going to be automatic that you start winning because you have a number 1 or number 2 defense.
Yeah, I don't think you tie yourself to one philosophy or the other. You have to evaluate the players that are in this particular draft and say who are the best players, and then go from there. I do think sometimes people make the mistake of reaching for a quarterback just because they need a quarterback, and they might in the process overlook maybe a great defensive player who grades out better. I think we've seen that trend up in the last 15 years or so. I think more so than previous generations of general managers. I think the caller, he wanted to put the bumper stickers out there. Defense wins championships. I will say this, the Chiefs, and that's why I asked Mike Borgonzi this yesterday. We had him on the show. The Chiefs are winning just as much with defense as they are with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
They know they've got Mahomes, but they have put a lot of resources into being a championship level defense, knowing that Mahomes will he'll elevate the rest of the talent around him on offense.
See, they can do that because they have a Patrick Mahomes that no
Right.
matter what, he's going to make that one play, because it's all about in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, it's all about moments. That's what it's about. You can have a great defense or you can have a great offense coming in. But if that great offense doesn't give you that moment, then more times than not, you're not going to come out victorious. Even with a high-powered defense, we look at Kansas City, what they've been able to do. Even last year, that defense carried them, but it was because of Patrick Mahomes' moment that they won that game, that they were able to advance and get themselves in the Super Bowl and ultimately win. The defense is going to carry them, but they're ultimately going to need, and Kansas City has it, they're going to need somebody that can make those plays when those moments come up. And Patrick Mahomes obviously has been able to do that. The Titans, you can do that, build up your defense, but you better have somebody, if you want to win consistently, you better have that one guy that can make the play in the moment when you need it.
I saw this yesterday as I was doing some research for Take It to the Bank, which is coming up at 1:45. And man, I've been struggling in that competition lately. But I've been doing some research, and I stumbled across this because what most NFL teams want, they want, like most of us, look, we don't want to have to work for stuff. We just want results, and we want them now. Who wants to work out? Who wants to study up? We just want everything, and we want it right now. As Queen said, Willie, as you know, I want it all, and I want it now. I saw this as it relates to the Commanders. The Commanders are just the fourth team in the common draft era to make a top 2 selection with their own pick and then make the conference championship the following season.
Who is that again?
The Commanders are just the fourth team in the common draft era to make a top 2 selection, which was Jaden Daniels, with their own pick and then make the conference championship the following season. Everybody would love everybody here would love the Titans to have a turnaround like the Commanders have had this season, or even the 2012 to 2013 Chiefs, right? When Mike Borgonzi, we talked about this with him yesterday, when Borgonzi was with the Chiefs early in his tenure there, they went 2-14, worst record in the NFL, had the number 1 pick. They traded for Alex Smith. They drafted Eric Fisher, an offensive tackle, with the number 1 pick. That was Andy Reid's first season as coach. That's a big part of it.
Hey, that was a bust.
Big part of it.
That was a bust at tackle. Don't nobody talk about that because of Patrick Mahomes. Fisher was a bust at tackle. He made Pro Bowl, I think, at guard, but not at tackle.
But they went from 2-14 to 11-5 in one season. And we would all love the Titans to go from 3-14 to 11-6. Unfortunately, the odds are it's not going to happen.
But a lot of that is, I think the common denominator in all of that is Andy Reid. Andy Reid, he developed a winning franchise, or helped, big with a winning franchise with Philadelphia. He was in the NFC Championship, I think 4 years in a row, made the Super Bowl once. So when you add an Andy Reid to the equation, automatically, like the LA Chargers when they inserted Jim Harbaugh, because of his pedigree, because of his track record, you're going to instantly go from a bad team to a good team. That's what the Chargers did this season, and that's what Kansas City did when they hired Andy Reid and got the number 1 pick, and Alex Smith. So I bring that up because it's not just about getting your quarterback. You got to get your quarterback, but you got to be able to have somebody that can coach that quarterback and help that quarterback develop. I'm not saying that Brian Callahan isn't that guy, but no matter who they choose to pick, especially quarterback, where they're going to be hand in hand with each other, him and the quarterback, Brian Callahan and the quarterback. He's going to have to be able to develop that quarterback in order to get those wins right away, like an Andy Reid.
Daryl from Hendersonville is on our
They
phone.
also
Go ahead, Willie.
Just a quick point on the 2013 Chiefs. They weren't that far removed from being okay. You know, they had remember the Matt Castle years. They had a couple of decent years in there. And then the other key move that I don't think we talked about, when they moved to Andy Reid and they had the first overall pick, they also brought in a guy named Alex Smith, who had been in the league for 8-9 years in San Francisco. San Francisco moved on from him because they had Colin Kaepernick, who got really hot. And so Alex Smith was available, and Andy Reid turned Alex Smith into a solid quarterback for 5 years. So that was a great quarterback move that didn't involve drafting the quarterback first overall.
Daryl from Hendersonville is on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Daryl, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys, in advance, I'm not going to ask you to tell me what a great caller I am. So do appreciate
You're a great caller, man.
You're a great caller. Thank you,
Yes.
Daryl.
No. Say it some more. Guys, I've got a theory about quarterback drafting that I think makes it is the most difficult job in professional sports. And that's because I'll back up. My theory is that there are so many players who have great college careers because they play on great teams. They have great defenses. They have great receivers. They have great linemen. And, you take a guy like Marcus Mariota, number 2 pick in the draft, or maybe he's number 1, number 2 pick in the draft, couldn't miss because of his stats, long, athletic, strong. But for every C.J. Stroud, there are 50 Marcus Mariotas, all first-round draft choices. And I do have some resentment of these general managers and coaches who've been able to hook their wagons to the success and the talent of their quarterback. The new GM for the Titans being one of them. We have no way of knowing what his participation was in the selection of Patrick Mahomes and getting Alex Smith and so forth. But they cannot miss on quarterback, as they have done so many times in the past. They cannot miss on right tackle, as they have done so many times in the past. And obviously, this is where these guys earn their medal. But the point is, how does a general manager and a scouting staff discount the surrounding team that these guys have? There's just example after example after example of supposedly can't miss players coming out of college, and the vast majority of them do miss. They miss badly. How do they make that discount?
Good
Thank
question,
you,
Daryl.
But listen, for every GM that tells you this is the formula for going to get a quarterback, those same GMs that implore that sort of formula, they've missed on quarterbacks. So it's not an exact science, like you said, Daryl. It really isn't, and you're right about that. I think there are 2 positions that are so hard to evaluate, and there may be more because I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I think goalie and I think quarterback, those are 2 positions that it is very like man, you need, even though you may think you got it right, and they may check all the boxes in college, or if they're playing, in a different league, they may check all the boxes, but then once you put them in the professional ranks, once they get up to the NFL or the NHL, for whatever reason, all that stuff that you saw seems to sort of disappear. It seems like they can't pick up the speed of the game, or they can't comprehend what's going on. There's not one way to get a goalie, and there's not one way to get a quarterback. It just depends on, okay, what are we looking for in a quarterback? Yeah, everybody wants these things. Everybody wants them. So it's not like my template is different from Adam's template, or Adam's template is different from yours, Willie. We all want these same things in a quarterback or a goalie. But then once we get them, how do you continue to develop that? That's why it's so hard, like the caller said, to really get your franchise quarterback.
Let's keep it local, Willie. Let's use Marcus Mariota as the example. Won the Heisman Trophy in 2014. Entering that draft, it was Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. And Mariota had a perfect game in his NFL debut. Will Levis also had a perfect game in his NFL debut.
We should have knew something that was wrong when Will Levis had his too.
But let's use Mariota as the example. I would think we would all agree that Mariota was considered a can't miss prospect coming out of Oregon. And what happened here that led to Marcus Mariota not being that type of player ultimately?
Yeah, that's one we could debate for probably the next 45 minutes and not fully agree. I would just look at it like this. There is a little bit of a crapshoot, no matter how good you think a guy is coming out of college. You know, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, I can remember us talking day after day about evaluating those two guys. Who are the Bucs going to take? Are they taking Winston or are they taking Mariota? Would the Titans take either of the two? Mariota, his career is a lot better than a lot of people who have been drafted in that spot, right? He wasn't a total bust. He just wasn't quite what you hope for. The chances, I was looking at a list, guys, of quarterbacks who have been taken number one overall. And it's such a wide range, right? For every Troy Aikman or John Elway, you've got a Steve Bartkowski, you've got a Jim Plunkett, you've got a Jeff George, you've got a David Carr, you've got a Carson Palmer, Eli Manning, Jamarcus Russell, Alex Smith. Like there's a whole spectrum, right? So there's no guarantee. And you're going to, and like you said, Derek, you're probably going to miss just as often as you hit. So that it is such an inexact science. That's why I place my probability on trying to get more picks. Use the first pick that way so that I sort of hedge my bets. I have more chances of getting the type of players that I need. Eventually, you've got to hit on the quarterback. But if you take a big swing on the number one overall pick, there's a lot of different ways that thing can go.
See, I think here's the narrative right now in regards to these two quarterbacks. That it's crazy because the process has just started, at least for the masses. Now, for the scouts, they've been doing their job. I'm talking about scouts that are on teams and scout for teams. They've been doing their job since day one. You know, they started on this last year. But for the masses, this is like it's just started. And as much as we have learned about the NFL and the draft, we still sit here on day one and said, there's no franchise quarterbacks. There's nobody. These guys are not even worthy of the number one pick or top 5 or top 10 pick. And then the closer and closer we get to the draft, the more and more we say, yeah, well, I watched more film of this guy, you know, and I really sat down, you know, I went back to that third game of the season and I saw it. And, you know, it's really changed me on Shedeur Sanders. This really changed me on Jackson Doherty. It really changed me on Cam Ward. I think those guys are projected to be top 2 or 3 picks. Whereas a month ago, you didn't, for what reason you didn't see that? Didn't you see those same games a month ago?
Yeah.
That you see, so my thing is, people, don't freak out right now. Everybody this is all about positioning yourself. No GM, I think, is going to come out and say, well, I really love Cam, I really love Shedeur, and I'm taking him. Why would they do that? Why would the Titans do that? Then they lose all leverage.
We do have an interesting piece of breaking news in the NFL. A Houston shakeup, according to Adam Schefter. Bobby Slowick is out as the Texans offensive coordinator. Per sources, in the span of 1 year, Slowick went from being a hot head coaching candidate to now looking for work. The Houston Texans have fired Bobby Slowick as their
Well, there's
offensive
two
coordinator.
jobs still out there.
I cannot wait to hear Jared's take on this because
Yeah.
Jared was hyping him up last year
Man.
like you wouldn't believe. And he did have a great it looked like he was the rising star. It just shows you how it can change.
Wow. But there's 2 coaching vacancies right now still. So could Bobby Slowick, just by way of getting fired, be now on the top of those boards?
Liam Cohen,
Yeah.
the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I don't want your job. Oh, I'm a fire Bulky. Okay, give me your job.
Right.
That's basically what Liam Cohen did, didn't he?
To quote Ferris Bueller, Willie, life comes at you fast.
Oh, you gonna keep Bulky? I don't want the job. See you later.
Who's this? Oh, Bulky's not there. Oh,
Oh,
hi.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's
Oh.
up, Jags?
Hey, how you
doing?
doing?
Wasn't there an agreement for Cohen to be like the highest paid coordinator?
Yeah,
in the
that's
league?
what came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Liam Cohen, now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bobby Slowick, who was like the hot.
Mhm.
He was like him and Ben Johnson, I feel like, because Ben Johnson ultimately went back to the Lions. Now he's with the Bears. Bobby Slowick out as Texans offensive coordinator. 615-737-1025. It's time to ask D-Mace. Get your calls in, get your text in. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
All right, I'm out here in Anaheim. I can actually see the Pacific Ocean. And yes, eat your heart out. It's pretty nice outside. It is not like we've been seeing in Nashville the last week or so. In the dead of winter, we still got some cold days coming. It brings me to Lee Company. They have you covered when it comes to your house heating. And let's look ahead. Get on the proactive side. Look at your air conditioning unit. Have you had it checked since last summer or a couple summers ago? You know that summer's going to be really hot. Is it working? That's why the home maintenance plan for Lee Company works so well. They're going to get in touch with you for annual checkups of these things. They're going to find the little problems before they become big problems. Lee Company is just a phone call away. Ask about their home maintenance plan. Small monthly fee. You get the annual checkups, and you get discounts on repairs when needed. 615-567-1000 or leecompany.com. Lee Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Predators hockey. The Predators back in action tomorrow against the Anaheim Ducks. Can they get the winning streak to 6 consecutive games? We shall see. Lee Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D-Mace.
We'll welcome you in.
Now, D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
D-Mace, Vin Ginendonic, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got tongue-tied there for a minute. It's time to ask D-Mace. So call us, text us, 615-737-1025. As we said before the break, breaking news in the NFL in the AFC South. Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator, is out 1 year after being one of the hottest coaching candidates on the market. He's out of a job. Life comes at you fast in this business. Andrew from Dover on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. D-Mace wants you to rank your top 5 Oilers and Titans players of all time, but you can't rank yourself because we all know that you're in your own top 5.
Okay, 1 me, 2 me, 3 me, 4 me, 5 me. No, I'm just playing with you. Listen, he's just saying Titans lore, not Houston and Tennessee.
Let's keep it to Tennessee Oilers / Tennessee Titans.
Exactly, because I got nothing but respect for those guys that play in the Oiler uniform, but I separate the franchises because even though the name was the Oilers, I was in Tennessee. Tennessee drafted me. So there's a separation for me in regards to franchises, but I grew up watching those guys and loved them, watching them play. For me, man, it's you say your top 5, but then you leave guys out, and it's like these guys that I played with, like, if you're just talking about Houston, about Tennessee, I'm gonna leave Bruce Matthews out of it because Bruce spent the bulk of his years in Houston. So I'm gonna leave Bruce out of there.
Let's do it this way. Players that are associated with the Tennessee
Titans
era of this franchise, whether it's Oilers or Titans.
Oh man, gosh, this is in no order. Bullock, Freak, Blaine. Oh man, obviously Steve and Eddie.
So you're leaving Derek
Henry. I mean, see, but it's again, this is it's just like you can't really do that.
It's easier to include the people that you were around every day.
Okay. Let me say this. Okay. Let me rephrase this. There are 3 guys that no matter what, it's going to be Steve, Eddie, and Henry. I think those 3 guys, no matter what, those 3 guys, and throw Frank in there, those 4 guys. Now that 5th guy can run the gamut. It really can. Bullock, Blaine, who else?
You said Javon
B-Hop, Javon, Stewart, those guys on that offensive line, the whole offensive line, you can throw half of those guys in there that were good. Taylor Lewan. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you can put at that 5th spot. So my top 3 or 4, Steve, Eddie, in no order, Steve, Eddie, Henry, and Frank. Now that 5th one, if you want to say Bullock, I wouldn't mind. If you want to say Freak, I wouldn't mind. If you want to say Blaine, I wouldn't mind. If you want to say Kevin Byard, I wouldn't mind. It wouldn't upset me. So, but that's the good part, I think, that, if you've really been following this team and not just some outsiders, because I guarantee you, if you asked a national guy, he'd just name out guys that he knows and not really know the roster. But when you've been around this team for this long, it's hard to pick after that 4th guy.
You know who'd be a good 5th guy? This guy named Derek Mason.
Absolutely, I think so. Listen. I'm going to say this for Tennessee Titans fans, if you didn't watch me play. And it's no slight to anybody else on that roster or in that receiving room, because I'm friends with all of them. That offense didn't take the next step until I got in the lineup.
That's right.
I'm just being honest. And now Steve was maturing even more. I had a great, second guy, and Kevin was he was the number 2. He could have been a number 1. He got injured. I had a great number 2 in Drew Bennett. And we know who Frank was, but Frank was an extension of the running game, and Frank was great. He carried us for damn near 3 years in the passing game. But when that passing game started to change, it's when I was inserted into the lineup. Can't nobody tell me different. Just look at the numbers. And not even my numbers. Just look at the numbers of the passing. When I was inserted, Steve McNair became the co-MVP. A lot of it was Steve. I get it. But he had to have people to throw it to. And I was damn good at catching the football and returning punts and kickoffs too. So, but I'm just going to throw that out there. That's just me.
Case closed. I'm satisfied.
That's just me.
All righty. Dr. Locke is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke, thank you for calling. Please go ahead. Are you there?
Dr. Locke.
It says Dr. Locke on my phone.
Is this Mr. Locke from Lost?
Dr. Locke, call back. Yes. Jerry is on our phone line, driven by Wilson.
Apparently, Dr. Locke is lost.
Yes.
Yes. Jerry is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jerry, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys. I see bringing Mariota back with the better coaching staff, because the previous coaching staff, when he was playing, ruined him, and he didn't have receivers that were actually catching the ball. What do y'all think?
Thanks, Jerry. Hard pass. Hard pass.
I don't think they're going down that road.
Marcus Mariota is 31 years old. I'm sure he loves being the backup quarterback for the Washington Commanders, who are still playing right now. I'm sure he's doing a great job mentoring Jaden Daniels. If Marcus Mariota wasn't 31,
even if he wasn't 31,
yeah, that's probably true. I think that ship has sailed.
The ship. Yeah, I agree. That was the saying I was about to use. But let's give him credit. He's found a niche as a backup. How many teams has he played for now? 5, 6?
He was with the Raiders, the Eagles, the Falcons, and now the Commanders. I think I have that right.
His career, it's just so ironic that his career and Jameis Winston's career is sort of went along the same timeline, because now ultimately you had Jameis Winston. I believe he was a backup quarterback on a Super Bowl team or an NFC or AFC championship team, or a team that participated in AFC and it's a championship game. And now Marcus Mariota is a part of a NFC championship game as a backup. And was he on one of the Super Bowl teams within the last couple of years?
Mariota?
Yeah.
So
as a backup?
So Mariota, after he left Tennessee, spent 2 seasons with the Raiders, 1 with the Falcons, 1 with the Eagles, and now he's with the Commanders.
Yeah, so it may have been with the Eagles when he was in, but that was last year, right?
That was the 2023 Eagles, who did not make the Super Bowl.
But they made it to did they make it to the conference?
They lost in the wild card round against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, so he did.
Yeah, that was the year they just dipped at the end of the year.
But it just
couldn't figure it out.
It just shows
weird
that
slump.
Yeah, it just shows that, just because you were drafted high and those guys were 1 and 2, and it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that, your career is just done, it's over with. Both of these guys have had their opportunities to start again. Now, Winston more than Mariota, because I think Winston has that one thing that Mariota doesn't, the ability to throw touchdowns, but he also has the ability to throw an interception too. And Marcus hadn't proven that he had the ability to throw a bunch of touchdowns. He had the ability to just be okay at times.
Eric is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eric, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a dad joke, guys. This is the second straight week. My dad joke is one that I made up myself, because sometimes I have to think. I usually try and think the day before, but this is the second straight week. I thought of it earlier in the day. It's one of those where it's real corny, real stupid, but I think you'll like it. Okay, what do you get when you cross a hare with a beehive?
A hairy bee?
No, Bugs Bunny.
Oh man.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So my ask D Mace is this, and I'm sure you guys talked about this earlier this week. Of course, you have the both championship games. But one of the things, and of course, I like what the coach of Washington said, that if Jalen Hurts runs for the ball, we're going to hit him. We're going to treat him like a running back or runner, which I have no problem with what he said. And also the whole thing involving Patrick Mahomes, where he definitely flopped last week after that play, and where he's trying to draw the flags, and it's so frustrating when you're trying to tackle him. Because I remember, I guess earlier in the year, I think they were playing San Francisco, and he was dancing on the sideline, and it's like quarterbacks afraid to hit him close sidelines because they'll get a flag thrown. But I know you talked about, I guess the competition committee is going to look at stuff in off season, but I agree, it's just so frustrating. I mean, of course, I don't have a problem with Mahomes manipulating the rules and stuff like that, but don't you think the competition committee is going to look at that in the offseason about the quarterbacks like Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and what they do? Because as a defender, you've got to be able to hit them and stuff like that. I know they want to protect the quarterbacks. You don't want to see guys get hurt, but it is just so frustrating as a fan to see that. And also, just one other quick thing. Do you think whichever AFC team wins is going to be favored in the Super Bowl, whether it's Buffalo or Kansas City? Guys, it's always good talking to you. Y'all take care. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you. There is something. I don't know how much the NFL is going to do, but there is something they should do. They should look at these. Honestly, and I don't know how they would implement it, but some of these things should be reviewable. Like this past weekend, when they called, the roughing the passer or the helmet to helmet hit on the Houston Texans, and they hit each other. They didn't hit Patrick Mahomes. I think things like that should be reviewable because that cost them, and it cost them big. They need to review this whole sideline things with quarterbacks where you're tiptoeing. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. This is going to happen. Kansas City's going to be down 14 points with like 2 minutes left in the game, or 17. And somebody's not going to care because they're going to say, there's no way you're coming back. And you're at the 20, you're on 20. Go ahead and dance around if you want to. I'm still hitting you, and I will take the 15 yards. These defensive players are getting tired of it. And I think defensive coaches and some offensive coaches are getting tired of it. It's like, dude, you're putting yourself in harm's way. Yeah, we may get the penalty, but then again, we may not. Just get out of bounds. And he's done it more than anybody else. But again, I think you said, Adam, hey, listen, he's taking advantage of the rule. So if you don't want it to happen anymore, either you're going to take matters into your own hands, in which what I said, but I don't advocate for things like that. But eventually players are going to be like, man, enough is enough. Either you're going to get out or you're not. We're going to scare you to getting out or you're not. Or the NFL just needs to do something. And I think the NFL, they have a responsibility to relook at this and see if there's any way that they can make it better. I mean, like being able to review calls like that, because that penalty against Houston, it was 2 of them. They shouldn't have been penalties.
What do you think, Willie?
Honestly, I did not, because the Predators were playing. I didn't see the plays that he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have anything to add on that one.
Fair enough. At least you're being honest about it.
Exactly. But again, if you're going to, sort of use the rule to your advantage, I get it. But see, the NFL, as they have been for many, many years, and it's not going to change, this is a reactive league, not a proactive league. They should have, even in college football, you can go back and review if it was a targeting or not. Why can't you do that for the NFL? If you deem it was targeting, helmet to helmet, then I should be able to review that, or the league should look at it.
I would be okay with that.
The league
have
should look
challenge,
at it.
A challenge,
Mm-hmm.
right? It would have to come from the other sideline. If you think it was an egregious mistake, I think that could be something that you would be able to challenge. I'd be okay with that.
615-737-1025. If you have any other questions for Derek, we will get to them. Coming up next, also, there is one word that Mike Borgonzi has used to describe what he wants to do with the quarterback position. And our very own Jared Stillman has a solution for all of us. We'll get to that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingid, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Happy Friday, everyone. This is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a goal or a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
As you evaluate the quarterback market this offseason, be it the draft, be it free agency, or via trade, if you find that there is no franchise changing quarterback, someone that you can build around, what do you do?
Then you have to bridge the gap. I think these discussions, I'm just diving into it right now. I wasn't watching the top quarterbacks during the season. We had one, obviously, in Kansas City with Patrick. So I'm diving in the process right now with an open mind. I'm getting with Coach Callahan and his staff, our personnel staff. And we're gonna look through free agency. We're gonna look through the draft. However trades, whatever we have to do to solidify that position. But we're pretty early on in the process right now.
That was Tennessee Titans general manager Mike Borgonzi joining us on this very program yesterday. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So the word solidify Mike Borgonzi has used that multiple times to address questions about what the Titans are going to do at quarterback. So our friend Jared Stillman opened his show yesterday with his suggestion for Titans quarterback, someone who in his mind can solidify that position, someone who in his mind is the closest example that we have in the NFL today to Alex Smith back in 2013. And that, according to Jared, is Sam Darnold. Now, gentlemen, we went through this exercise a couple of weeks ago. I had the two of you rank quarterbacks who could be available, veteran quarterbacks who could be available this offseason. Sam Darnold was included in that list of 6. It was Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold, Derek Carr, and Kirk Cousins. Those were the 6 that I used. Willie, I can't recall where you had Sam Darnold. It was pretty low on the list. Derek,
last.
You had him last. Derek did not even want to include Sam Darnold on his list. I forced him to for the purpose of the exercise. But neither of you were high on the idea of Sam Darnold. And Jared looked at Sam Darnold's statistics through 7 years versus Alex Smith's statistics through 7 years. He found them to be quite comparable. And here's one of my favorite things on this station. Every week for an hour, Jared has Teron Davenport on the program as part of the TD Power Hour. And one of my things about that hour, just other than the fact that I feel so much smarter after listening to Teron Davenport talk about football, is that Teron just has this way of disarming Jared Stillman just by giving him a look or scoffing at something that he says. And when Jared brought this up to Teron yesterday, you could just hear it over the radio, like Teron rolling his eyes at this suggestion. I think he used a line. I think he attributed it to Booger McFarland, like statistics are like bikinis. You can see a lot, but not everything. I think that was the line, which I thought was quite creative. But TD was out on the Sam Darnold idea. What do the two of you make of the Sam Darnold to Alex Smith comparison as the quarterback that can, quote unquote, solidify the quarterback position for the Titans? Willie, why don't you start?
Okay, well, let's start with how Kansas City got Alex Smith. Remember, we referenced this before. Colin Kaepernick came on for an injured Alex Smith and got red hot, and they went all the way to the Super Bowl, right? That was the Harbaugh Bowl. And they made the decision at that point to ride Kaepernick, and that made Alex Smith expendable. And let's also remember that Alex Smith had been in San Francisco for years with some really bad teams early on. He was the first overall pick in 2003, and it's 10 years later, pretty much, that the 49ers traded Alex Smith to the Chiefs for a second-round pick in the 2013 draft and a conditional pick in the 2014 draft. So they had to pay a decent price just to get Alex Smith. So Darnold, we don't know for sure, is going to be a free agent, right? There is some talk about the Vikings tagging him and then trying to trade him. I don't know that that's going to work. And so this is all contingent upon Darnold hitting the open market. But if he does, I think that is going to be a very expensive proposition. My position is I'm willing to be bad next year if I'm Mike Borgonzi. I am going to try to sell, and I asked him this yesterday about reasonable expectations level. He did say it's going to take a couple of years, but he does also understand that there'll be a lot of pressure to show progress. But that being said, I'm willing to not have a great year if it means I can build a better roster in 2 years. And so I'm looking for more of the flyer. Darnold is going to be a big investment, and he's got to return on that investment. And I don't know that he can return on the investment it's going to be. He's going to be sought after by a number of teams because of supply and demand. Somebody's got to overpay for him. I don't want it to be the Titans.
Derek, just before I heard the sigh, so I only know where this is going.
No.
But Jared points out to me that You trade for Sam Darnold. I think if the expectation is he's going to be tagged, I think Jared said it was going to be like $40 million or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. But you trade your second round pick this season.
Give me a
for
break.
Sam
You can't
Darnold.
trade picks. You cannot trade picks.
I'm with Willie. I mean, Brinkert already told you, and Borgazzi has already told you how valuable picks are. So to trade your second round pick for, because again, here's what I think Jared is missing. Alex Smith went to Andy Reid. I'm gonna say that again.
Yes.
Alex Smith went to Andy Reid. Anybody that goes with Andy Reid has some success at quarterback. Anybody. There may have been a few guys, but more than likely, when you're coupled with Andy Reid, whether he was the head coach in Philadelphia or now, and you've played, you've had success.
So let's name some of those quarterbacks.
They also had Jamal Charles.
No, I'm just talking about the coach.
Right.
So
but they. My point is they had some other pieces too to work with. Jamal Charles was being one of them. He'd been around for a while, and they, so they it was a really good situation to come into. I think, relatively speaking, for a team that had been so bad. You had a great coach. And Andy Reid, like you said, D-Mace, that's the number one thing. Alex Smith was a veteran quarterback who had already had I think, better success than Sam Darnold. Alex Smith, it took a long time, but his last couple of years in San Francisco were pretty good. And so I think he was already advanced past where I've seen Darnold get. So I don't think it's a fair comparison.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Jared's suggestion that Sam Darnold be the quarterback to solidify the position in Tennessee, much like Alex Smith did for the Kansas City Chiefs early on in Mike Borgonzi's tenure with that organization. 615-737-1025. We'll continue this conversation next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. BL from Nashville, minus the T. BL from Nashville is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. BL, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
You know, I just don't think that Sam Darnold is going to do you any good. If you look at Minnesota's setup, they are set up for success if you have anybody at that helm. But Tennessee needs to focus on building out other parts, which with that first pick, you either trade back and get more assets, or you take Travis Hunter in that spot and pair him up with our new special teams coordinator and get something dynamic. But you just got to embrace the suck for 1 year, then hope for the best.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
So let's revisit what we were talking about before the break. Jared yesterday suggested that Sam Darnold be the quarterback who solidifies, to use the word that Mike Borgonzi has used, solidify the position, much like Alex Smith in Kansas City, as the bridge to Patrick Mahomes. And it worked in Kansas City. Both of you mentioned Andy Reid being in Kansas City as a big part of it. I knew it was only a matter of time before Jared texted me on my personal line. Your show starts in about an hour, my friend, but I will indulge you this time. In response to the Andy Reid quip, and I'll let either one of you take this, he says, then fire the effing coach. If I can't pick someone up because my coach isn't good enough, then effing fire him. Well, he has Kevin O'Connell, then go find the next Kevin O'Connell.
Again, I'm not even talking about I am talking about, listen, Andy Reid for one. Whenever you put a quarterback with Andy Reid, and this is what they're trying to find out with Brian Callahan. Is he that guy? And he has just this season to prove it, I believe. So it's not so much of, listen, if you're going to, because on one end, we talk about how valuable these picks are, but then on the other end, you say, well, go out and give away your second round pick, and you don't have a roster. Your roster's depleted, but go ahead and give up your second round pick for a quarterback that just now started to find his groove, and he's going to be our bridge guy. For how long? Because listen, the only reason I didn't want to sign Sam Darnold is because I want a true bridge quarterback. If indeed you feel one of these guys are your guys and you draft them, I want a true bridge. A true bridge to me is a 1 year, possibly two. Sam Darnold is not a 1 or 2 year. Alex Smith wasn't a 1 or 2 year deal. Don't make it seem that Alex Smith was in KC for like 4 or 5 years. So he was able, in those 4 or 5 years, he played damn good football. They drafted Patrick Mahomes because they knew eventually he was getting old. He ended up getting hurt too that last year. Okay, the year he went to Washington.
Injury
yes, but
Washington.
He played 15 games the year prior. He missed the game, so they knew they were getting ready to transition out anyway. So it was good for them. But I'm sure they didn't give up a second round. Oh, what was that deal for with San Fran? Because I'm sure I would be surprised if they
the
gave
deal
up
from Kansas City.
Yeah,
Jared said it was 2 second round picks
to get Alex Smith. Okay, you're going to give up.
That's quite a bit.
That's a haul for the Titans. You can't afford to give up 2 second round picks
because they also don't have a third round pick
exactly.
right now because they traded it for L'Jarius
Absolutely,
Sneed.
Sam Darnold doesn't have the body of work that Alex Smith had prior to coming to Kansas City. He talked about the 3 or 4 year period. You put them all together. Yeah, the numbers are similar, but he didn't have. Look at Alex Smith's numbers when he played close to a full season. He put together a good body of work. Now his interceptions were up there at times, but he put together a good body of work. Sam Darnold hasn't been able to do that. We only talk about Sam Darnold from this year. His first 2 years were okay, but after that, he fell off the map. Alex Smith had some stuff on tape, a lot of stuff on tape, before Kansas City chose to go out and get him. He got one of the only reasons and this is what I was alluding to. I said Kansas City, but it was San Francisco. The prior year in 2011, he played 16 games. He threw for over 3,000 yards, 61% completion rate, Alex Smith. The next following year, he played 10 games. Kaepernick came in. And then after that, they said Kaepernick's our guy. And they were able to trade him. They were able to trade him. Why? Because he put together a good body of work. More than a year. He put together 3 or 4 solid years that they can trade him. And they did.
You on that. I'll challenge you on that a little bit, D-Mace. I think what Jared is seeing, in fairness, is it did take Alex Smith. And the 49ers as an organization were going through a languishing.
You know why I took it? I'm gonna answer your question. You know why I took him? He played one full season in San Francisco those first 4 years or 5 years. One full season. So when you're injured more times than you're not, that derails you as a player. You really can't. And I think that's what San Fran was sort of tired of, him not being healthy. When he played good football, but he was healthy. I mean, he was hurt more than he was healthy. So it was a little bit more feasible because they're like, listen, we're not going through this no more. We're gonna trade him away. And they got exactly what they're wanting. I'm not sure the Titans are gonna give up a second round pick because this roster's depleted. I don't think Kansas City's roster was depleted when they gave away 2 second-round picks.
Well, here would be the counter argument, Willie. If you trade a second-round pick for Sam Darnold, theoretically, you do not need that first pick. You can trade down, accumulate more picks, and make up what you are giving up and maybe add even a little bit more for trading the number 1 pick while also having your quarterback. That would be the counter argument to using picks.
That's still a lot of faith in Sam Darnold. I'm not sold on him. Sam Darnold, remember, played for a team that had arguably the best defense in the league for most of the year, if not all of the year. They had the slippage at the end. And he was throwing to the best receiver in the game, or if not the best, one of the top 3 or 4. A really solid running game, an excellent scheme and play caller. He will not have that surrounding cast next year for the Titans. So investing in him, I'm not sold that he is blocked. And listen, it should tell you a lot that the Vikings would be willing to let him go and put their money on a guy who's never played. Like the 49ers were willing to trade Alex Smith because Colin Kaepernick, say what you will about him, but he was on fire when he came in there. He really was hot. I can see why they thought it was the right move. So I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. And what we haven't said, and I haven't found it, how much did Kansas City have to pay Alex Smith when they traded for him? What was the salary? Because we know the going rate for a starting quarterback now is extremely high. And I would guess higher than it was a decade ago, even relative to the salary cap. I don't think you can emphasize enough. You got to pay a premium price for Darnold, not only with assets perhaps, but also the dollars. I just don't think I can get a good return.
Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
Wasn't Alex Smith, and I'm gonna say this, but then you can say what you say, Adam, and we can answer. Wasn't Alex Smith under the old rules in regards to signing first round picks? Like they changed the rules so you wouldn't have to pay him as much, but wasn't he still under those old rules? I think it changed.
I don't know the answer to that.
It would have been his second contract regardless. I know what you're saying. He probably signed one of those contracts where you get paid a lot before you ever put the uniform on when you're the first overall pick. That was probably the case, but he had already been in the league for 7 years.
In August of 2014, he signed a 4-year contract with the Chiefs for $68 million, worth roughly $17 million per year. That includes $45 million in guarantees.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the percentage of the overall cap there to see where that fits. But to me, that seems like it would be sort of second tier at the time. And Darnold, I think going in, like, let's remember that Baker Mayfield, guys like that, who are, I think, more comparable to Darnold as the bounce back. Mayfield, they got him for about $20 million a year, right? And now Mayfield is probably going to get a raise at some point here. But to me, you're trying for a bounce back and not having to pay for what he hasn't done yet.
I am on the side of Derek when it comes to if you want a bridge quarterback, and Willie, it's reminiscent of what the Predators did in the offseason. All the Predators had to do to get Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault was to spend money. They didn't have to trade anything to acquire either of those players. They just had to have the cap space, and they did, and the Predators signed them. I would rather sign a quarterback in free agency where you're not giving up those assets, because a second-round pick is a high second-round pick is a premium asset. Now, I also understand the other side of it. Well, if
it's also the first pick in the second round. Let's not forget that. It's the top of the second round, the first pick in the second round.
So I would much rather just spend money on a bridge quarterback and not have to give up anything else. And if you decide to trade the number 1 overall pick, you get even more picks out of it. So I'm on the side of Derek on this one, that the bridge quarterback to me needs to be someone who is available in free agency.
Yeah, and listen,
well,
I'm not
I'm
saying
in
that
agreement.
you don't.
I'm in total agreement.
I'm not saying that you don't need that guy. So, Jared, if you want to bring Sam Darnold in, fine, bring him in. But I am not bringing him in and giving up my second-round pick. I'm just not doing it. Now, if you want to come in and I give up a lower round pick, yeah, we can talk, because eventually with Sam Darnold, you're equating bridge with a guy that's not wanting a bridge. Sam Darnold isn't going to want to be a bridge guy. A bridge guy to me is,
that's not a bridge.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying, and you're going to my point, Willie. He's going to want a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yes. Somebody will pay him that.
And somebody's going to pay him that. But if I'm the Titans, that's not what I'm doing.
No, I agree.
That's why I went away from the Sam Darnold whole bringing him here, because I knew Sam Darnold isn't your conventional bridge guy. He's going
if the
he
rest
see
of the
money.
roster,
He
if the
see-
rest
he
of the
see what-
roster was ready to
Exactly.
win, I could see it. But they're not. They are so far from that. You would be paying him to be an elite quarterback with a bad roster,
And he's not
That's
an
a
elite
recipe
quarterback.
I agree, and so that's a recipe for disaster.
So if you want to get him, but you know exactly you're going to have to sign him to a 4-year deal, 5-year deal that ends up being 4, and all that comes with it, you're going to have to accept. So if it's not good, don't come back and say, well, they shouldn't have signed him to that long term, but that's what he's going to want. A long-term deal. I want a true bridge quarterback, 1 or 2 years. I don't want a guy that I got to pay for the next 5 years. Well, at least not Sam Darnold. Now, if you're going to give me, I don't know, if you want to trade Trevor Lawrence to me, I don't think they're going to ever do that. But if you're going to give him to me, I sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal.
I mean, according to Dan Orlovsky yesterday,
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence to the Titans seems like a sweet deal.
I
Al
know.
is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Al, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yes, I think they need to forget about Sam Darnold. He's only had 1 year to prove anything, and then you don't want to be like the Cleveland Browns did back years ago, where every other year they draft a quarterback and never address the offensive line. It doesn't matter who you put at quarterback. You don't have an offensive line that can pass block and run block. It don't matter who you put, because when Derrick Henry's last few years there, they put 8 in the box, and everybody's brother knew that Derrick Henry was getting the ball on 3rd or 4th and short and turn the ball over on downs or whatever. You got to have an offensive line that can establish a running game and pass block where it's going to protect the quarterback. Or you got to have a quarterback that's dynamic and can run, be a threat to run and to pass. I don't know what's in the draft this year. It's kind of a thin draft quarterback-wise, but you need to address the offensive line before you go worry about quarterbacks or anything else, because Browns showed that in their previous history. Everybody drafted a quarterback every other year without addressing the offensive line. Quarterbacks got killed. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Al.
They need more picks. Let me ask you guys this. I agree with that approach. I think that the roster has to be viewed as a whole and not just the one position.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw this at you with Darnold, because the last 2 games he played, and the red flags that went up. He really didn't play well when it was on the line. Does that factor into your decision of his value going forward? The game against the Lions and the game in the playoffs, where he didn't play well at all. What are your thoughts? A little window, or do you think that's baggage he's going to carry?
Listen, it didn't help him. I tell you that. But if you're asking me, my thoughts were made up about Sam Darnold prior to that game. Again, the reasons why I wasn't in favor of Sam Darnold coming here is because he's more than a bridge quarterback. Now, if the Titans say we are looking to bring a veteran guy in that's going to be our quarterback to lead us, to lead our franchise, and they're not even thinking about drafting a quarterback, then okay, you sign Sam Darnold to a 4 or 5 year deal and you live with it. Kind of sort of like they did with Ryan Tannehill. But Ryan Tannehill didn't get that contract until he was able to prove it on the field that year. And then subsequently after that, they gave him a contract, sort of like Sam Darnold's doing with Minnesota. But Minnesota doesn't seem to, they're still a little iffy on him, in regards to keeping him. They're willing to trade him away. So if you're willing to do that, Titans, and say, whoever we get to come in here, that's going to be our guy moving forward. He's young enough. He's put together enough of body of work. He's been on a winning team, so we want him in as our quarterback. And now we've solidified that position. We're not looking for that position in the draft. We're going to surround him now and build up our team. Okay, do that. I'm on board for that. I'm on board with that, but I'm not on board with bringing him in and trying to, because he's not going to sign a 1 to 2 year deal. He's just not going to do that. So why even go down that road? If you're going to trade him away for a second round pick, he's not a bridge quarterback.
Where I stand on this is, and Jared even would acknowledge this, and I believe he did acknowledge this, Sam Darnold is not a good enough quarterback to win you the Super Bowl. He may not even be a good enough quarterback to win you a playoff game. We just saw what happened when Sam Darnold was in the playoffs. And if I'm committing to him for at least 3 to 4 years, I'm hoping that the Titans will be competitive enough by the time that contract ends. So I'm okay with the Titans being bad next season, which is why I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on one of these other free agent quarterbacks. And if they stink, they stink. You're not committed to the quarterback long term, and you can build up your roster in other places and hopefully find that quarterback eventually that can get you back to being competitive. I don't want to commit to Darnold that long, expecting that, knowing that, hey, maybe they'll win the division one of these years, but they're not going to win a playoff game with him. But
if you give up that second round pick, you're going to have to
you're
commit
giving up
to
a
him.
second round pick that
You're going to have to commit
cannot
to
be
him.
in the discussion. There's the first pick in the second round. Come on.
You're going to have to commit to him. If you give up that second round pick, and I've already said this, he's not a bridge. He doesn't think in his mind he's a bridge quarterback anyway. Again, bridge quarterbacks to me is 1-2 years. But if you're giving up a second round pick, he's not a bridge quarterback. So when you give up that second round pick, don't say he's a bridge quarterback as an organization, because you don't give up second round picks for bridge quarterbacks, no matter if you trade out of the first pick or not. People don't give up second round picks and think he's just a bridge. They gave up a second round pick in Kansas City, and Alex Smith was there 5 years. Is 5 years a bridge quarterback? They just so happen to do their evaluation, and somebody on that staff, we don't know who, convinced them to draft Patrick Mahomes. And they got it. They rolled the dice and they got it. But Alex Smith wasn't meant as a bridge quarterback.
615-737-1025. We'll continue this conversation about what the Titans should do at the quarterback position. You let us know as well. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Talking Titans quarterbacks, talking Sam Darnold. Because Jared Stillman suggested that Sam Darnold be this Titans team's version of Alex Smith for the Kansas City Chiefs, based on Mike Borgonzi talking about how Alex Smith solidified the quarterback position. Another thing I want to point out. So Jared points out regularly the reason why he started believing in Sam Darnold was he had an opportunity in his final season, I believe it was the 2022 season, to start 6 games, the final 6 games of the season for the Carolina Panthers. And we know the Carolina Panthers, they're not a good team. But Darnold won 4 of those 6 games. Derek.
Yes.
Who was the Carolina Panthers' number 1 receiver in 2022?
DJ Moore.
Yes, DJ Moore. In those 6 games, Darnold targeted Moore 36 times. The next closest wide receiver targeted was Terrence Marshall Jr., who had 16 targets. So Moore was clearly the alpha dog. He had 21 receptions for 386 yards and 4 touchdowns over those 6 games with Sam Darnold starting at quarterback in 2022. We all know who Sam Darnold's number 1 target was this past season. Justin Jefferson. You may have heard of him.
Yeah.
I have a hard time separating the receiver from the quarterback in this situation. Calvin Ridley is not DJ Moore. Calvin Ridley is not Justin Jefferson. So I hear what Jared is saying, but considering the environment and the pass catchers available to him, I'm not sure Sam Darnold is going to put up the same types of numbers with the Titans that he did with the Vikings, or if you want to go back to that small sample in Carolina.
Listen, I equate this to Ryan Tannehill. That's just what this is. And I say that because in regards to the trade value, the Titans, I think, gave up a 6th, 7th, and it was a 4th round pick in there somewhere, a 6th round pick and a 7th round pick for Ryan Tannehill. If you want to go down that route with that type of package, then yeah, okay, let's talk. But again, Ryan Tannehill wasn't the bridge quarterback. He played 5 years here. Again, that doesn't classify to me as a bridge quarterback.
The trade, Miami received a 2020 4th round pick and a 2019 7th round pick for Tannehill and a 2019 6th round pick. That was the deal.
And that's what I would be willing to give up to Sam Darnold.
You're probably not going to get Sam Darnold.
But what I'm saying is, because to me, he's Sam Darnold and Ryan Tannehill. Who's had the better career? Even if you shrink down Ryan Tannehill's years, I believe Ryan Tannehill had the better career. Now Darnold's still playing.
Yes.
I get that. But Ryan Tannehill was more than a solid quarterback when the Titans got him. They made the trade for a reason because they felt he could be the guy that can do the things that they were asking the quarterback to do. And he came in, and to his credit, he was able to do it. Now, we all know how the Cincinnati game went, but outside that, he was the quarterback of a winning team when he was here. So if you want to go down that road, then I will give you sort of the same package that we gave up to get Ryan Tannehill. I'm not giving you a 2nd round pick. That would be dumb of the Titans. I'm not calling Jared dumb, but I said that would be dumb.
You can call Jared dumb if you want.
No, because I'm not about, they do that on their show with Koharski and them too, and then they throw Chris Sanders in the middle of it. Well, Paul did the other day. Chris gets thrown strays for some reason, which I'm a little bit peeved about that, but that's neither here nor there right now. But if you want to get Sam Darnold, I'm not giving up a 2nd round pick for him, because this team, if we were in the position that the Titans were in when they got Ryan Tannehill, they had some core pieces. The roster wasn't depleted. They just felt Ryan Tannehill would be that one guy that completed it and they can make a run. And it happened exactly like they wanted it to. So if the Titans were under that scenario, then okay, go and get Darnold. But they are not. This team doesn't have that talent that the Titans had when Ryan Tannehill was brought in. They are depleted of talent just about everywhere. So to me, I am not giving away. Borgonzi said it. That's the most important asset they have right now is their picks. So why am I going to give up a second-round pick for a bridge guy? That's just me. Now, if he wants to do it, then fine. Then you got to live with that if it doesn't work. But I'm not going to even put myself in a position. I'll give you a fourth rounder maybe with some conditional picks, but I'm not giving up because that is and like you said, Willie, it's a high second round pick.
I'm not trading any picks for Darnold. And even if he were on the free market, I would hesitate. Let me ask you. Let me ask you.
Even if he didn't cost you any picks, Willie.
Well, that's what we were considering him because I was thinking maybe he would go to free agency. If they're determined to trade him, I'm not trading anything for Sam Darnold and then signing him up. And here's an example. Who is a better quarterback today, Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold? Who'd you rather have?
Baker Mayfield.
Okay, so Baker Mayfield was picked up for a song by the Bucs, right? Basically looking for a job, looking to restart his career, and they hit on him. They gave up nothing to get him, and they signed him cheap. Now they've signed him to the next contract where he's now going to make, according to SpotRack, next year his cap hit is about $35 million next year. So is Sam Darnold going to make more or less than $35 million with his next team?
I don't know.
More probably.
I'm going to say more, and I would rather have Mayfield.
If you're paying him,
but remember, the Bucs have already gotten value out of Mayfield for almost no out of pocket money. They've made the playoffs 2 straight years with Mayfield, and now they're going to pay him based on the fact that he's gotten it done for them, and now they're paying him still a pretty decent salary for his value. They're not paying him $50 million like Tua. Darnold hasn't done anything for his new team yet, and he's going to be paid more, and you're going to have to give up a second-round pick or a third-round pick, what Jared is saying? No deal. No deal.
You got to pay him and get But that's why I said he's
up front.
I'm imagining Willie on Deal or No Deal right now with Howie Mandel saying, deal or no deal? And Willie's just slamming that thing down. No deal, Howie.
Because he's not a Brit. When you do that, when you give up a second round pick, when you have to pay him, and you're right, Willie, when you have to pay him $40 million, he's not a bridge quarterback. So you might as well not even think about drafting a quarterback this year or maybe not even next year because he's not a bridge. When you got to give up that much, no, he's your quarterback. He's your he's your franchise quarterback.
Corey is in Hendersonville on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Corey, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
First-time caller, and
thank you.
I wanted to address 2 situations. Number one, with you guys talking about with Sam Darnold, he was a flash in the pan this season, and he had great weapons around him with Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. We could go on.
Yes.
If Minnesota valued him that much, they wouldn't let him go. They would re-sign him to a long-term deal and do something with J.J. McCarthy. If they value him that much, they would not let him go on the open market. My thing is, why aren't we talking about Justin Fields? Like, is Justin Fields a free agent this year?
Yes.
Yes. Number 1 on my list.
I was about to say, Willie.
Now, that's a bridge quarterback.
Thank you for calling, Corey. When we did this exercise a couple of weeks ago, Willie, you did indeed have Justin Fields number 1 on your list of the quarterbacks I presented.
That is more of the Baker Mayfield bounce back, where I'm taking a guy, and I'm interested in what the market is for Fields. I don't think he's going to come super cheap. I think some teams are going to be interested in him, especially now that they've seen what the Bucs have done with Mayfield. They've seen that a bounce back can happen, and that is a pathway to some pretty good football. And so Fields intrigues me for sure, because I don't think it's going to cost you nearly as much. Number 1, he's a free agent. You're not giving up anything to get him. And number 2, you're not going to have to invest huge money, I don't think.
I think
to get him. And you structure the contract. And if somebody wants to pay him the moon, then forget. I'm out. Then don't worry about it. Have at it. I want him for a value.
He's the perfect sort of bridge guy because he doesn't have much he doesn't have much what the word I'm looking for gosh, it totally has escaped me. But he doesn't come in holding all the cards. He doesn't
has
have
no leverage.
Yeah, leverage. Excuse me. That's what I was looking for. He doesn't have
don't
much.
think so.
He doesn't have much leverage. But if you look at his 3 years with Chicago, he got better each year. Now that was a whole cluster. All that was a cluster what they did and what was going on when they had him underneath center.
If I recall correctly, in the time that he started for the Steelers at the beginning of the season,
Mhm.
he had 5 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 1 interception.
Yeah, so he was playing winning football when he had to play for the Steelers. He played good enough in Chicago, but everybody know the Chicago in that situation. Everybody understands the situation in Chicago.
I don't remember
But
why did they make the switch in Pittsburgh? I don't remember.
I think originally Russell was going to be the guy. They went and got Russell.
Right.
Russell was going to be. He got hurt, and then they put Justin Fields in there. Justin Fields was doing well, but in Mike Tomlin's mind, Russell Wilson never lost the starting job.
Okay.
So when he got healthy, they put him back in, and obviously we saw what happened. But to me, like you said, Willie, I think Justin Fields is more of a bridge quarterback because he doesn't have that leverage. But you saw throughout his short career that he has gotten better as a quarterback. So I would sort of equate him closer to Baker Mayfield than not.
The question I would have with Fields is how far has he advanced in his knowledge of the game?
Yeah.
Because he has flash brilliance. The thing that I would say on a bad team, he showed it with the Bears. He's going to run his way to a certain amount of success. The guy has run for 1,000 yards. You know, he's got that. He's a brilliant runner. So you have that going for you. My question would be, can you, if you're Brian Callahan, envision him running the offense you want to run?
Yeah.
That's what I would wonder. And if the answer is maybe, then again, the key word is bridge. D-Mace, we agree. You're not committing to him long term. You're
You
just
don't have
taking
to
a
give him
flyer
big
on
dollars. You don't have to give him
taking
big
an
dollars.
inexpensive flyer while you try to find out who the next quarterback is. And if you hit big, great. Pay him.
Quickly, Jack in Hermitage is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jack, thank you for calling. Quickly, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if any of you guys had the bad days of deja vu I did watching that Lions game with Sam Darnold. Had a bye, home field advantage, didn't use their running game as much as they could have, and otherwise hitting on all their quarterback throws, 4 interceptions. I was thinking to myself, I feel sick because this is the second time I've seen this.
Ryan Tannehill.
Thanks for the call, Jack.
That's and again, if you want to get Sam Darnold, I'm not giving up no more than what I gave up for Ryan Tannehill. But it doesn't seem like y'all don't want to give up any. At least Willie, he's like, I'm not going to give up any.
If we're talking about a bridge quarterback,
Ryan Tannehill came super cheap.
Right. If we're talking a bridge quarterback, a true bridge quarterback, I am paying money. I am not giving up any other assets other than money. 615-737-1025. It's Friday. It's roughly 1:45. It's time to take it to the bank.
Woo-hoo!
Coming up next, Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingett, 1025, 1063. The Game. D-Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We wrap up the week, as we always do, by taking it to the bank with our friends at F&M Bank, where their mission is to make lives better by making banking easier. All right, David James, let's quickly recap our selections from last week.
All right, boys. So, D-Mace, you said take Detroit by points. Detroit in the points. That did not happen.
Nope.
You said Henry over 100 yards and Lamar over 60. Both of those didn't happen. But you said the Preds would win over the Wild, and they did. So you get 3 points for that, with a total of 112 points.
Okay, I'll take that.
Now, Willie, you said Chiefs -8. That happened. You said Lions -9.5. Did not happen. You said Rams +6.5. The Rams only lost by 6, so you get the points. And the Ravens +1.5, and unfortunately that did not happen.
Jeez.
So you get a total of 6 points for 93 points. Now, Adam, let me go back to the text. It said Chiefs -8. That did happen. They did cover. You said Commanders +9.5, but you said they would lose. But cover. So I took a point off for that.
Okay.
You said Henry will rush for at least 100 yards. Again, that did not happen. And you had a crazy pick with the Rams defeating the Eagles.
Hey, it was closer than you think.
It was, but you said they would beat them. You didn't
I
say
did
cover.
say that. I did say that.
So you have a total of
How many points? So I got 5 points. Okay.
With 103 total points. Now for me, I said Lamar would throw for 2 touchdowns. That happened. I said Keaton Mitchell would go for 60. He went for 135 yards. Now, this was just on kickoff, but still 135 yards, pretty darn good. And I said, probably the worst take of them all, that my boy CJ Stroud would go for 3+ touchdowns. That did not happen.
Wah, wah, wah.
All right. So so Derek is in the lead. Therefore, Derek, you can go first.
Oh, wow. I go first?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to.
Well, while Derek does that, I'm going to go first because I come prepared. Okay, you're ready?
No, I was just looking for one thing.
Okay.
I had it.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Saturday, I got to go with my Preds. And I got Marchessault to score a goal in that. So, I got a Preds win.
Okay. And a Marchessault goal.
That's
2 picks.
Okay, that's 2 picks.
That's 2.
I got Saquon Barkley over 90 yards. And I got Josh Allen with a touchdown, both running and passing.
Okay. Here are my selections. They're all related to conference championship weekend. So Jaden Daniels, I thought this was interesting. He's the first rookie quarterback to have multiple playoff games with multiple passing touchdowns. However, he is facing the league's top-ranked scoring and total defense. So I will say that Jaden Daniels will be held to 1 or fewer passing touchdowns. So he'll either have 1 passing touchdown or 0 passing touchdowns this week against the Eagles. That sort of telegraphs my pick. I am picking the Eagles to defeat the Commanders. I Philadelphia -6. Give me Philadelphia -6. In the AFC, I hate to do this because I'd love to see something different, but I'm picking Kansas City to defeat Buffalo.
Don't do it, Adam. Don't do it.
Patrick Mahomes, 3-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs. No starting quarterback has ever defeated another starting quarterback 4 times in the playoffs. However, until I see Kansas City lose in the playoffs, I can't pick against them. So I will take Kansas City to defeat Buffalo. And the over-under in that game, as I see it right now, and the AFC title game is 48.5. I'm hammering the hell out of that over. By the way, here's another good note for you. The Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes playoff matchups have averaged 63.7 combined points per game. So I am hammering the over. Those are my 4 selections. Willie, your turn.
All right. I'm going by KenPom here because I don't think they put the lines out for some of these games. There's a big game with Tennessee going to Auburn, and Tennessee versus Bruce Pearl is always very good theater. I will take Auburn, who is a machine at home. Ken Palm has them as an 8-point favorite. So let's make it 7.5 because I don't think Bruin is still ready to play. I'll say Auburn minus the 7.5. I think they'll find a way.
Great
They're
game
so
this
good
weekend.
in that.
Great game.
I think they're so good in their building that that they'll get it done. I'll take the Commanders plus the points against the Eagles. I think the Eagles will eke it out, but I think that's too many points. I think the Commanders are so hot, and in the regular season, they're so familiar with each other. I think the Commanders will be right in this game. I will take Saquon Barkley to get over 100 yards. He's on fire. I think he will continue his role. He'll have at least 100 yards rushing. And I will take the Bills plus 2 at the Chiefs. I think law of averages, it's just time. I would love to see it for the Bills. I think this is the year that they'll figure it out. They'll catch a break. They've been so close in the last few meetings. I think they're due to just find a way to win.
The fourth time is a charm. That's what they say.
They caught a bunch of breaks with the Baltimore Ravens. I tell you that.
All right, David.
Yeah. That was unfair.
know.
That was
Yeah, I
uncalled
know.
for, D-Base. I've
I
been
know.
like, we'll get to that later.
I threw a hand grenade on myself. Too.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So I think the Preds would win too, but my pick is that Philip Forsberg, or as I like to call him, Philip Scoresberg, will score a goal tomorrow. I think that Josh Allen will throw for at least
that
2
would
touchdowns.
set the record, by the way. If Forsberg scores, that would be a record, 8 straight games, a franchise record.
Let's
8
go,
straight
baby.
games
Let's
with
do
just
it.
1 goal.
I think Josh Allen will throw for 2 touchdowns. I told my buddies who was a Bills fan that I'm cheering for the Bills, so I'm going to go for the Bills just because I have to. I can't cheer for the Chiefs. As someone who was born and lived in the DMV, I chose the Ravens, but I gotta go with the Commanders. I love Jaden Daniels. It would be so cool to see. I'm going Commanders. And those are all my picks.
All right, quickly, because we did not touch on this today. The big NFL coaching news: Pete Carroll,
yes,
returning to the sidelines with the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's just take a moment to discuss.
Is that not very Raider? I mean, that's just a Raider move.
It is. It is a very Raider-esque move. Let's just take a second to talk about the coaches in the AFC West: Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Pete Carroll. No young bloods in that group, Derek Mason.
No, there isn't. But there is a lot of winning amongst those coaches. So, I mean, listen, I think this group of coaches, if you just look around the NFL, whether it be, the older guys and Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, they're always going to be fixtures. Those guys won championships or whatnot on certain levels. But these young guys, man, they are, and I hope that Brian Callahan becomes one of these guys. They are really putting in the work, and they are really transcending the game of football, at least from a offensive standpoint. So I'm hope we're able to talk about Brian Callahan as we talk about some of these other coaches, young coaches or coaches that have gotten hired. Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen. We think about them as great offensive minds. I hope that we can, as the season goes this year with the Titans, I hope we can then start putting Brian Callahan sort of in that mix as well.
Quickly, Willie, Andy Reid, 3 Super Bowl titles. Sean Payton, 1 Super Bowl title. Jim Harbaugh, 1 college national championship. Pete Carroll, 1 Super Bowl title, 1 college national championship.
That's a pretty good resume. A lot of credentials in that. I'm just really curious at this stage of his career what Carroll can do to spark that franchise that absolutely needs a spark.
If you're going to spark it, then what franchise, just from a historical standpoint, which franchise does it? Like Oakland, whether it's Oakland or now Vegas, it's always like they've had that energy.
Yeah.
They just hadn't been able to put a team together. Like their fan base, they're there. The fan base is there. So I think it's a good thing that they hired Pete Carroll, because it seems like Pete Carroll is still energetic. Pete Carroll is still fiery, and obviously he took the job, which means he's still a grinder. And that's what I think the Vegas Raiders fans want. A guy like Pete Carroll that's energetic, a grinder, and can get it done.
That'll do it for us this week. Enjoy conference championship weekend. Great games.
Anchor
Commanders
down, Memorial Gym, Kentucky in
That's
town.
right.
Watch
Kentucky in town to face Vanderbilt tomorrow. Maybe some more Memorial magic in store for the Commodores against the Wildcats. Predators back in action tomorrow night, going for 6 consecutive wins against the Anaheim Ducks. A lot to watch and listen to this weekend. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stillman and Company coming up next, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Let's go, Preds. Let's go, Big V Vandy. Not so much little Kentucky. But no, little cats. No, but be safe, be loved, love on your people. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. We'll see y'all come Monday. Peace.
Meow, meow, meow.